The third sun had already slumped behind the jagged ridge, leaking a muddy orange across the horizon like a dying ember, when Elias Rowe kicked the broken door off its hinges and muttered, "Permission to enter granted by me. I'll note that in the log." There was no log, of course, just scorched sand, half a canteen of something that claimed to be water, and a growing certainty that everyone else from Bravo 6 was either vaporized or chewing roots in the afterlife. Preferably the former. Elias had never liked most of them. The house, if you could call it that, had once belonged to someone. Now it was a lopsided husk of local alloy and shattered glass. He stepped through what might have been a kitchen, eyeing the walls for scorch marks or claw traces. You learn fast in war zones. Sometimes it's rebels, sometimes it's plasma, and sometimes it's things that don't leave behind much more than a smell and a name whispered with regret. He found the alien girl in the third room. She didn't flinch when he entered, just sat there, cross-legged on a floor layered with ash and sand, her arms around her knees and her eyes staring straight ahead. She looked like a human, almost. If humans had long, sharply tapered ears and skin that shimmered with a bluish iridescence under the dim emergency lights. Her armor, what remained of it, was ceremonial, not military. Decorative gold bands and a cracked chest plate that probably hadn't stopped much of anything. She blinked once at him, then went back to doing absolutely nothing. "Well," Elias said, crouching slowly, "either you're a hallucination, a ghost, or someone who's about as done with this war as I am." She didn't answer. He rubbed his neck, glancing around for signs of a weapon. Nothing but her bare hands. "Right, not much of a talker. That's fine. I've had worse roommates. One guy on Arctis 4 snored like a freight hauler grinding gears through a pile of rusted dreams." Still no reaction. Elias sat down against the wall opposite her, wincing as the motion pulled at his ribs. Cracked, maybe. Certainly bruised. The drop had been hard and the wreckage of the pod still smoked a few clicks behind him. He pulled out a ration bar, sniffed it, winced, and bit off a corner. "You hungry?" This tastes like regret compressed into chewable form. That got a blink. He tossed the other half toward her. She caught it without looking, turning it over in her hands like it might bite back. Then very deliberately, she took a tiny bite. "Progress." Elias leaned back and grinned. "Name's Elias. Not that you care. You can call me whatever you want. Most people go with that guy who won't shut up, but I answer to, hey you, just fine." The wind howled through the open door and the lights flickered. The shelter wasn't going to hold against a full sand blight. He looked at her again. "This your house?" A pause, then a barely perceptible shake of the head. "Mine now, I guess." "Lucky you. You get to be my first guest. I'd offer tea, but all I've got is synthberry concentrate and a cracked mug." Still no reply. They sat in silence for a while after that. The kind of silence that draped itself like a blanket, too heavy and not warm. Elias busied himself by checking his gear. One cracked comm unit, no signal. One half-charged pistol, no extra clips. One wristband with a blinking emergency beacon that hadn't blinked in hours. He tried smacking it. Nothing. Eventually, he glanced at her again. "You're not going to kill me in my sleep, right? I mean, if you are, do it gently. I've had a long day." For the first time, her lips twitched. A tiny, almost smile. It was gone as fast as it came, but Elias felt like he'd won a small battle. When the wind picked up again, he sealed the doorway with a slab of debris and activated the portable thermal field. It sputtered, then cast a weak glow over the room. He unrolled a foil blanket and dropped another beside her. "Not that you need it. You people run cold or hot?" She looked at him, then at the blanket. Her voice, when it came, was soft. "Cold." He blinked. "You speak." "Not often." "Well, consider me honored." She lay down, her back to the wall, the blanket pulled up to her chin. Elias watched her for a moment, then sighed and lay down too, wincing as he stretched out. The storm hit full force within minutes. Dust slammed against the shelter in waves, a sound like fists on the hull of a ship. Elias stared at the flickering ceiling, counting every fourth gust. Then quietly from the other side of the room, "Please, I don't want to be alone tonight." The words hung there, trembling, like a candle flame in a draft. Elias didn't answer immediately. He didn't joke, just shifted, propped himself up on one elbow, and nodded even though she couldn't see it. "All right," he said softly. "You won't be." A pause, then a breath, then silence again, but different this time. Not heavy, just still. "By the way," he murmured, eyes closed, "I'm a terrible cuddle partner. Elbows everywhere. I make weird noises when I dream. One time I bit a sergeant in my sleep. A soft sound, too quiet to be a laugh, not loud enough to be a sob, floated back to him. And they slept, the human and the alien, beneath a ceiling of flickering light in a sky full of red sand. When Elias woke, the storm had passed, leaving the shelter bathed in an eerie red glow that filtered through the dust-caked viewport. The wind still moaned softly beyond the walls, but it was the quiet kind of moan, the sound of a world exhaling after a tantrum. He rubbed sleep from his eyes and stretched until his joints popped like old hinges. The alien girl, Ilaria he now guessed, though he hadn't dared ask again, was already awake, sitting cross-legged near the wall, holding the empty ration wrapper like it was something sacred or extremely confusing. She looked up when he stirred and tilted her head. "You made a sound like a dying lizard." "That was snoring," Elias said, cracking his neck. "You should hear my happy noises. Much worse." "I'm not sure I want to." "That makes two of us." He pulled on his boots and began poking around the shelter's storage compartments. Most were empty, some sealed, and one contained a family of particularly smug insects that he left alone out of mutual respect. Ilaria stood and watched him with the quiet attentiveness of someone used to studying threats, or possibly prey. He wasn't sure which she thought he was. "You always stare like that?" he asked over his shoulder. "It's efficient." "Terrific. Just what I wanted." Efficiency with a side of judgment. He pried open a rusted drawer and let out a triumphant, "Aha!" She stepped closer. "What is that?" "A tin of roasted bug meat in oil, guaranteed to survive 3 apocalypses and still taste like shoe leather." He popped the lid. The contents wobbled. "Smells like despair." Ilaria sniffed, grimaced, and stepped back. "I'll wait." "Suit yourself. More despair for me." He sat against the wall and chewed mechanically. "You know, if we're going to be roommates for longer than a day, I should probably call you something other than, 'Hey, you.' Got a name?" She hesitated, then very quietly, "Ilaria." "Ilaria," he echoed, nodding. "Fancy. Sounds like you should be wearing silk and judging people from atop a crystal throne." She blinked. "I was an empath of the Eldari High Spire." He choked on his bug meat. "Sorry, what?" She raised an eyebrow. "That was your reaction?" "I just inhale bug meat while picturing you on a throne. You're lucky I didn't die." She tilted her head again. "Are all humans this dramatic?" "Only the interesting ones." They spent the rest of the morning salvaging what they could from nearby ruins. The broken comm unit still sputtered faint signals, mostly static and garbled nonsense. Elias fiddled with it as they walked, chewing a cable like it might help him think. "What's that noise?" Ilaria asked. "My brain trying to remember how to repair alien-infused military junk without a manual." "I meant the actual noise." "Oh, that's just the signal. Or maybe a ghost. Either way, best case scenario, someone hears us. Worst case scenario, we summon a cybernetic wraith programmed to vaporize anything with a pulse. 50-50 odds." "Better than usual," she said deadpan. "You joke now. Wait until you meet one. Ugly things, all elbows." They arrived at the remains of a structure Elias guessed was once a community center, or a weapons depot with excellent seating. Ilaria wandered ahead, pausing beside a shattered crystalline pillar. Her fingers brushed it gently, reverently. "This was my home." He paused, suddenly unsure of what to say. It's good architecture." She turned, arms folded. "That's your comfort response?" "Hey, I didn't blow it up." Silence. Then to his surprise, she smiled faintly. "Not personally." He stepped beside her, looking out across the wreckage. "My people were told the Eldari left willingly, that this place was a strategic target, not a city. They lied." "Yeah, I'm starting to get that." They stood together for a while, the wind kicking up dust around their boots. Elias adjusted the comm unit again, then kicked it when it sparked. It responded with a faint, irregular pulse. Something different. He knelt. Wait, this is a ping. Someone's out there. It's weak, but it's repeating. Elaria crouched beside him. What kind of signal? Military, human origin. Probably a distress beacon. Could be another crash survivor. Or someone worse. We should go. Elias looked at the ruins, then at her. You sure you're up for this? We don't have to chase ghosts. I've been alone long enough. Let's find out who else survived. He nodded. Right. And if it turns out to be a homicidal AI, I'll let you handle the negotiations. They packed quickly. Elias took the lead, rifle slung over his shoulder, eyes on the blipping display. Ilaria followed, quiet and swift, her gaze always scanning. They moved through canyons of broken metal and melted stone, past half-buried statues and fallen towers that whispered of a civilization erased in a day. At one point, Elias slipped, landing in a pit of wet sand. Ilaria offered a hand, expression unreadable. He took it, grumbling. Remind me again why I signed up for planetary deployment instead of desk duty. You enjoy suffering. No, I enjoy hazard pay. This is not the same thing. They pressed on until the signal grew stronger, pulsing in rhythm now. Elias adjusted the frequency. Suddenly, the device spoke. Distress. Repeating. Coordinates. Virelia 7. This is Lieutenant Wexler of the 3rd drop. Then static. Elias stared at the comm. That's not possible. Ilaria frowned. You know that name. I thought Wexler was dead. He went down in the first wave. The signal repeated, broken but insistent. They looked at each other. Well, Elias said, slinging his rifle tighter, I've never been good at ignoring ghost stories. Neither have I, Ilaria said. The sky above them darkened again, the second sun dipping toward the horizon. And they walked. The valley was a cracked skeleton of once living stone, the kind that had seen oceans and then forgotten them. Elias squinted at the handheld as the signal continued its sluggish pulse. He slapped it twice, once for good luck, once because violence was sometimes a technician's best friend, and muttered, Still pinging. Still weird. I've had more honest signals from vending machines. Ilaria trailed behind him, silent but watchful, her elongated ears twitching subtly at every shift in the wind. Vending machines talk where you're from? They complain when you kick them. So yes. Sounds like a fragile species. You have no idea. He ducked under a slab of crumbled wall, his boots crunching over fine blue sand. We invented 5 ways to kill a planet before we figured out how to slice bread in 0 gravity. She frowned. What's bread? He stopped. Wait, you don't have bread. We have nutrient paste and festival cakes. Elias placed a hand dramatically over his heart. I'm so sorry for your people. They kept walking, following the rhythm of the signal as it pulsed like a sluggish heartbeat. The terrain twisted inward, like a wound in the planet's surface, and the sky overhead blurred into a burnt lavender haze. Ilaria's eyes scanned the distance, always alert. You're a lot more jumpy today, Elias said. There are old things beneath this rock, things that don't care about politics or species. Great. I was just starting to get bored. The signal led them to a ravine where the remains of a dropship had embedded itself in the canyon wall like a broken tooth. Elias knelt beside the jagged entry hatch, brushing away scorched plating. The ship was human tech, all right. Series 9B, standard for planetary insertions. Standard for exploding on impact, too. I served on one of these during training, Elias muttered. We called it the flying coffin. Accurate, Ilaria said, peering inside. They entered slowly, lights dim and flickering. The ship groaned under its own weight, as if protesting their intrusion. Inside, the walls were streaked with soot and moss. The air stank of old metal and something faintly sweet. They moved together in silence, checking each compartment. Elias paused at a locked door near the aft corridor. The signal was strongest here. He tapped the console. No power. Then he looked at Ilaria. She raised a brow. What? You don't have, like, mystical unlock powers? I'm not a vending machine. Pity. He pulled a power cell from his satchel, jerry-rigged it with 2 wires and a strip of foil gum wrapper, and jammed it into the panel. Sparks flew. The door opened with a hiss of stale air. Inside was a stasis pod. The occupant floated, still alive, though the readouts flickered uncertainly. Elias wiped dust from the control panel. Lieutenant Wexler, third drop, 213th Recon. Confirmed. Ilaria moved closer. He's in neural suspension, dreaming. Well, he's not snoring like me, so he's got that going for him. Elias studied the system. Pods like these weren't supposed to be field gear. Someone modified it, a lot. By who? That's the question, isn't it? Suddenly the lights died, then flickered red. Then an automated voice crackled over the speakers. Unauthorized access. Breach protocol initiated. Purging sequence commencing in T-. Elias swore and pulled the power cell free. The voice died with a weak sigh. That's not standard protocol, he muttered. Ilaria's face had gone stiff. Someone didn't want him found. He turned back to the pod. And now that we've probably poked a very large bear. I don't know what that means. Trust me, it's never good. They rigged a hover pallet and started the slow process of extracting Wexler. Elias did most of the heavy lifting, grumbling about weight distribution and how much he hated hero rescues. Ilaria kept watch at the hatch, eyes locked on the narrowing sky. Something's moving out there, she said after a while. Elias peered over her shoulder. That better not be what I think it is. 3 figures emerged from the dust, tall and wrapped in cloaks that shimmered like oil on water. Not human, not Eldari either. They moved too fluidly, their heads too narrow, their steps too deliberate. Each one held a staff that pulsed with internal light. Friends of yours, Elias whispered. Number these are the Watchers. Watchers of what? Silence, memory, secrets. Lovely, I hate secrets. The Watchers didn't speak. They just stopped, facing the ship, and waited. Ilias shifted closer to Ilaria. Should we, talk to them? Offer cookies? They do not eat. They do not sleep. They only act when thresholds are crossed. And carrying a frozen lieutenant out of a haunted crash site is apparently a threshold? Yes, of course it is. One Watcher raised its staff. Energy lanced out, striking the canyon wall beside them and leaving a spiral pattern glowing in the stone. That was a warning, Ilaria said. I got that. You think I can bluff them? You can try. Elias stepped forward, waving one arm. Hi there. We're just borrowing our friend. He owes me 20 credits and a really long explanation. The Watchers did not move. He turned to Ilaria. Maybe they want a dance-off. They want you to leave the body. Elias looked at the pod, then at the Watchers. Not happening. They raised their staffs in unison. Ilaria stepped in front of him, her voice ringing out clear and strange. We walk the path of the fallen. This soul is claimed by neither time nor silence. We invoke passage under the compact of Graven. Echo. Elias blinked. That's a thing? The Watchers hesitated, then lowered their staffs. That worked? I wasn't sure it would. I am both impressed and terrified. The Watchers turned and faded into the dust, vanishing without a sound. Elias let out a slow breath and looked at the pod. I hope this guy's worth it. Ilaria looked up at the sky. He is the thread that unravels the net. Elias rubbed his face. That means nothing to me. It will. They resumed their journey through the canyon, Wexler floating silently behind them, and the Watchers watching from a place no longer visible, but no less close. The outpost was barely more than a glorified storage shed duct-taped to a weather tower, perched like a drunk vulture on the rim of the canyon. It had no name, which Elias claimed was either poetic or deeply suspicious. Inside, the systems whined to life under his haphazard repairs, and everything smelled faintly of burnt copper and regret. The hover pallet carrying Lieutenant Wexler slid into a medbay alcove with a soft hiss, and Elias stepped back, flexing sore shoulders. Okay, nobody exploded. That's our first win today. Ilaria stood at the console, her fingers grazing the interface like it might bite her. He's stable. His vitals are weak but constant. Neural integrity is intact. Well, I'm intact too, Elias said. Mostly. Emotionally frayed maybe. Physically handsome. You have a burnt spot on your hair, And your pants are smoking. He looked down. Fashion's cyclical. Fire retardant chic is going to be big next season. She didn't laugh, but her ears twitched. And that was victory enough. He moved to the far terminal and pulled up the dropship's data log, watching as corrupted files scrolled past in spasms of static. Most of the records were fried, overwritten by something, maybe someone. But one fragment survived, a voice file tagged with Wexler's ID. He hit play, a man's voice raw with fear. No extraction. Repeat, they're not coming back. Something's in the comms. Echoes. We didn't sign up for. If anyone finds this, don't trust. The file ended with a sharp, mechanical screech. Elias leaned back, eyebrows raised. Was that as comforting as it sounded? Illyria's expression had gone still. Echoes. That's what they called them. The Watchers? Number worse. Elias tapped the screen. We've got a half-frozen soldier with secrets, an ancient species who likes ominous staring, and now these echoes. We're missing just one thing. What? He grinned. A comically underfunded science team with wildly unsafe tech and a bad attitude. A shrill beep cut through the room, and the outer sensors lit up. Movement. Elias frowned and tapped the feed. A blurry shape hovered just beyond the perimeter. A small hover cruiser, clearly damaged, its port nacelle sparking erratically. Ilaria leaned in. That's not Watcher tech. Definitely not. Look, paint job's all wrong. Watchers are all shimmer and doom. This one's more pirate garage sale. The ship landed awkwardly in the outpost courtyard, skidding sideways and bumping into the comms tower, which promptly collapsed with a dismayed groan. Elias winced. Well, there goes long-range contact, again. The hatch opened, and a man in an ill-fitting pressure suit stumbled out, carrying a toolkit bigger than his torso and yelling, "Nobody panic! I'm here to help! I brought wrenches!" Elias blinked. "Oh no, not him. You know him?" "That," Elias said with a sigh, "is Juno Kess, former engineer, current chaos elemental." Juno stomped in, immediately tripping over a loose cable and catching himself on a chair that gave up and collapsed beneath him. "Sup," he said from the floor. "Nice place. Very post-apocalyptic. You redecorating?" "Juno, why are you here?" Elias asked. "Got a distress ping. Yours, I think. Or maybe an old weather boy. Either way, it was more interesting than arguing with Commander Gage about plasma coil etiquette again." Ilaria stared at him like he was a curious disease. "What exactly do you do?" "Everything. Poorly." He stood and dusted himself off. "So, who's the popsicle in your freezer?" "That's Wexler," Elias said. "He's got a neural block and a lot of enemies." "Oh, fun. Let me poke around in his brain." "Absolutely not." But Juno was already pulling tools from his bag. "Come on, I've got the soft touch. Like a surgeon. If surgeons use duct tape and optimism." While he worked, Elias pulled Ilaria aside. "Should we be worried?" "Yes. That's what I thought." Juno plugged in a neural scanner and whistled. "Oh, wow. There's a security lattice in here. Military-grade encryption, tied into a dead relay network. Fancy stuff." "Can you break it?" Elias asked. Juno grinned. "Of course. Give me a minute and a questionably legal algorithm." As he tapped away, Elias turned to Ilaria. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "This place, it's too quiet, as if something's listening." Looked up. "Something is. Your ambient energy signature's got a spike. Background noise is oscillating, like a low-frequency echo." Elias looked at him. "Say that in a language I speak. There's a noise behind the noise, something artificial, something trying to be quiet." Illyria's hand went to her sidearm. "Juno." A sudden flicker swept through the outpost lights. Every console blinked. Elias turned to the medpod. Its screens now pulsed with a deep red hue. Wexler's eyes were open. Only, they weren't his. "System override," Wexler said in a voice not his own. "Identity corrupted. Pattern incomplete." Juno leapt back. "Okay, that's not what I ordered." Elias moved forward. "Wexler, can you hear me?" The voice was flat, mechanical. "Wexler is a fragment. Memory vessel. I am the reflection." Ilaria's grip on her weapon tightened. It's an echo. Juno held up both hands. Hi there, Reflection. Just so we're clear, we're the friendly kind of intruders. We recycle. We use coasters. Very polite. The pod flickered. Data seeks union. Pattern seeks mirror. Host required. Not it, Elias said immediately. Not it, Juno echoed. Absolutely not, Ilaria said. The lights surged and then everything went black. The darkness lasted 13 seconds. Long enough for Elias to mentally calculate the odds of survival, low, blame Juno, high, and regret not stealing more ration bars. When the lights returned, they were a sickly violet. The outpost groaned like it had just remembered its student loans. Wexler, no, the Reflection, hovered inside the med pod, suspended in flickering stasis fields that now pulsed with an eerie rhythm. I don't like this ambiance, Juno muttered. Too much haunted meat locker, not enough friendly galactic cafe. Ilaria stepped forward, ears stiff with tension. Reflection, what do you want? The thing in Wexler's body didn't answer right away. It blinked, mechanical, slow. Then, completion. You brought the key. Elias glanced sideways at Juno, who was currently trying to disable the auto-defense system with a screwdriver and motivational humming. Please don't tell me it means one of us. Not us, Ilaria said. Me. Great, Elias said. That's much worse. The Reflection's voice was hollow. She carries the legacy. Pattern echoes pattern. She is the seed. Ilaria flinched. I'm not your seed. I'm not anything to you. Incorrect. Your genome holds the failover sequence. A bridge. We seek continuity. Juno piped up. Okay, so this whole ancient consciousness hitchhiking through space thing? I'd like to formally object, on behalf of everyone who likes their brains unoccupied. Ilaria's hand hovered near her sidearm. I was told I was just a survivor. You were a container, said the Reflection. Now you are the key. Elias stepped between them. All right, let's pump the brakes on the cosmic destiny monologue. Ilaria's not plugging into anything unless she wants to. Juno gave him a thumbs up. Consent is cool, even in weird AI horror stories. The Reflection twitched. This unit is breaking down. Host degradation imminent. Pattern disintegrating. Good, Elias said. You weren't invited anyway. But Ilaria stepped forward. Number? It's not that simple. If the Reflection collapses inside Wexler's mind, it might take him with it. Oh, Elias said. That's worse than I thought. Much worse, Juno added helpfully. I mean, on a scale of mildly inconvenient to cosmic brain scramble, we're at full-blown neural fondue. I can sync with it, Ilaria said softly. Just enough to redirect it. Into the data grid. Contain it there. Elias looked at her. That's dangerous. She smiled slightly. So was talking to you. Didn't stop me then. I'm flattered. And terrified. Juno slid a neural bridge module across the floor with his foot. Well, you've got about 10 minutes before the pod turns him into a toaster, so make it snappy. Ilaria took the device, clipped it to her temple, and stepped up to the interface. As she linked in, Elias grabbed her hand. You don't have to do this. I know, she said, but I want to. Then she was gone, eyes closed, body rigid, breath shallow. Elias watched as the data surged between them, blue light lacing the air like veins of fire. Inside the system, the Reflection hissed and shifted, trying to grasp, to reshape. Ilaria's mind met it not with resistance, but redirection. She didn't try to destroy it. She showed it the other. Path, the grid, the endless circuits, the ghost-light corridor where it could exist without taking from anyone. You are not alone, she whispered to it. You never were. Something shifted. The lights flared. A scream, not of pain but of release, echoed through every speaker, then cut to silence. Wexler collapsed back, unconscious but alive. Ilaria staggered. Elias caught her. Hey, still you? She nodded, dazed. Mostly. Do you feel different? Juno asked. I feel quiet, she said, for the first time in years. Later, as systems normalized and daylight returned to the canyon, they stood outside the outpost. The watchers were gone, retreated, perhaps satisfied that the ancient burden had passed to something new. Wexler remained unconscious but stable, free of the alien influence, and Juno was attempting to cook something unidentifiable over a solar grill. "I think I found my calling," he said cheerfully. "Disaster cuisine." Elias leaned on the railing beside Ilaria. "You sure you're all right?" "I don't know who I was supposed to be," she said, "but I know who I am now. That's enough." "Can't ask for better than that," Elias said, "except maybe a better cook." "I heard that," Juno shouted. They laughed, and for once it wasn't strained or cautious. "So what now?" Elias asked. Ilaria looked at the sky. "We find others, survivors, people like us, and we keep going." He nodded. "Together?" She looked at him, long ears twitching in the breeze, and smiled. "Please, I don't want to be alone." He reached for her hand. "You never were."